Hello and welcome to Coffee Talk. This is episode 42. Love to see it. Those numbers keep getting higher and higher. My name is Trevor Hooth, and of course, I'm joined by Nate Kosher. Nate, how you doing?
I'm doing great. We have real baseball in the books, Trevor, which
We do.
there's nothing better in the world than that.
We have real regular season baseball games to talk about, which is always fun. We're going to start with what literally everybody is talking about at this point. It is the talk of baseball, which means on a baseball podcast, we're going to talk about it. I covered it the first night it came around, the Nestor Cortez game, as I'm sure it will be known. When when that happened on First Pitch Podcast, I happened to be the host that night. Make sure to listen to First Pitch Podcast weekends, weekdays. Jake Crumpler does weekdays. I do weekends. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, enough of my shameless marketing out of the way. The Yankees torpedo bats is certainly something. Now, I've gotten my thoughts out into the public already, Nate, so I want you to have your platform here. What do you think about these torpedo bats?
I'll be honest, I haven't learned the full, research yet. I just saw that the Yankees were tearing the Brewers up this weekend with tons of home runs. Aaron Judge isn't using a torpedo bat, and supposedly they are legal. That's all I honestly know. I wanted to talk through it here.
So they're taking wood from a different part of the bat, and they're essentially adding it to where the barrel is, where the sweet spot is. I think if I read correctly, they are actually adding it to the places where hitters make the most contact. Um, and there's a lot more
Interesting.
to it than that. I mean, they brought in an MIT person to come and figure out what to do with it, and that's well beyond what I'm going to look into it, if I'm being fully honest. But basically, they're thickening
Okay.
the barrel in certain spots, um, and they did it for 2 games. And no one said anything, and then the third game they hit 9 home runs off Nestor Cortez and company, and all of a sudden it's the talk of baseball. Now you're starting to see it around different teams. I saw Ryan Jeffers had one. I'm seeing some other players start to roll up with them. I saw that there was a lot of um, requests for different torpedo bats. So it's making its rounds around the league. I'm sure
Interesting.
it's going to be commonplace here soon. But from where I sit, it's legal. So, I mean, I
Well,
can't believe it took teams this long to figure out that they can do that.
it's funny that, of course, it would be the Yankees, or like it would have been Yankees at this point, probably the Yankees or the Dodgers figuring this
Mhm.
out, hiring someone from MIT. Um, but how bad do you feel for Nestor Cortez leaving, his former team, and they just light him up with his first start of the season with his new team? Uh, just have to
Yeah.
feel bad for the guy. But okay, yeah, I'm reading more about it. Basically, the bat is just wider or fatter
Mhm.
in the sweet spot where you're trying to hit the ball.
Right. And again, I can't believe it took teams this long to figure this out. Like, why are we just talking about this in 2025?
Yeah,
Because
you're right. With all
it,
like technology and
yeah,
data tracking and
yeah, and all
yeah,
teams looking for whatever edge they can get. I mean, it seems like something that should have come around sooner. It's going to be probably. I don't know if it's a hot take from me or not. I just can't muster the ability to care that much about it because, again, all teams are going to do it soon, and if they don't, they're behind the curve. And you know, it is what it is. It might, im- have a pitching imbalance for a minute. I'm sure that'll correct itself. This game ebbs
right.
and flows. Pitchers use
Yeah.
sticky stuff in order to gain an edge for a while, and then that went away, and now we have the opposite side. The hitters are going to have something, and I don't know. It's not great. Like if I were a pitcher in the league, I would absolutely hate it, and I should take the sides of pitchers because I was a pitcher, and this is pitcher list. But it just is. It's what they're doing right now, and they're hitting tons of home runs now. Aaron Judge is hitting them like a madman. He's not using the torpedo barrel or the torpedo bat, rather.
Yeah.
Um, so
I
I
mean,
guess I guess
it
for me, what I'm trying to say, Nate, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no,
what
go
I'm
ahead.
trying to say for me is that I kind of want a larger sample size before I start to care. Right now, we're looking at one game where they went off and saying, oh, look, it's helping them be better hitters and hit with more power, which could be very well true. But what about the games before when they weren't hitting for power? Were they not using them?
I was gonna say, I mean, at this point it's probably much ado about nothing until all teams are using it or until it blows up further, it, I don't think it will be. We'll look back and probably think this isn't a huge story this season.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and could it be their familiarity with Nestor Cortez helped them? Like maybe, tipping pitches or signs or something. There's a lot of different factors, is what I'm trying
If
to
they
say.
don't hit 9 home runs in a game, are we talking about this at the level we are?
Yeah, exactly. No, we wouldn't have. Yeah, it maybe been a cute little story like, look at this different
Mm-hmm.
bat.
Yeah,
But
look at the bigger barrels that the Yankees have. Is that something that's allowed? And it is allowed. It's technically legal
it's
right now.
allowed. So yeah,
So,
I agree with you. I think it's gonna blow past pretty
mhm.
quickly here.
What might not blow past pretty quick? Jerks and Profar, hot off the presses when we are recording this. Suspension, banned substances.
Oh, I didn't
So,
even look this up yet. An 80 gamer?
I don't remember the amount of games offhand, but it is a suspension. And he's going to be missing time. And the question is this why he was so good last year? You don't
Right.
want to think so, but I guess maybe. The Padres didn't want to bring him back. The Braves just traded for Stuart Fairchild, which you imagine they knew this was coming. Um, I don't believe they've announced the length yet, from what I see, unless I'm
And
missing it. So at this point, we just know that he was suspended for substances banned by MLB.
so remember we talked about him this offseason when he signed, one of the later free agents to sign, and we both agreed we weren't really that interested with him having a career year in his early 30s. Seemed like a blip, which this would make sense why there was that blip.
Hmm. And you don't want to say it. Like we're not accusing him of anything. Like just to throw that out there. We're not saying this is
Right.
why.
No,
You don't know. I haven't read the story,
you
right?
won't have definite proof. Yeah,
But the dots
you're
are going to
right.
connect in some people's minds, and I guess maybe. So where do the Braves go from here? I mean, you already have Acuna out and not back yet.
Well,
You are. I mean, Jared Kelnick probably gets regular at bats. Michael Harris is your center fielder. So what do you do about the rest of your outfield spots? Do you think?
the Braves, that's who signed Verdugo, right? Alex Verdugo recently.
Yes.
So I know he's not ready probably yet because didn't have any spring training or anything.
Hmm.
But I would think he's gonna come into picture for them and get some at bats, potentially start
Yeah. So
once he's ready.
your outfielders on your 40 man right now. You have Alex Verdugo, as you mentioned. They just got Stuart Fairchild, Carlos Rodriguez, a lefty that they acquired from Milwaukee back in November. 24-year-old is also on the 40 man. Beyond that, you're
Oh, that's
looking
tough.
at Eli White, Brian De La Cruz, Jared Kelnick.
Yeah, that's tough. None of those guys I would say are solutions. Just some
Mm-hmm.
short term stopgap types.
Waiting for
Yeah,
Acuna to come back. There are some stars that are rehabbing right now. I mean, it's not Acuna, but just throwing that out there. Gunnar Henderson is working his way back, as is Spencer Strider. Spencer Strider had a rehab start that went really well. Struck out 6 in 3 innings.
so yeah, I was just looking at the Braves prospect list too. There's not a lot of
Hitters. They don't have hitters
position players. Yeah,
at all.
it's all pitchers.
Yeah. They have Drake Baldwin. They have Alvarez.
Mm-hmm.
And then you struggle to think of who the next one
That's
is. I
about
mean,
it.
they have a couple guys who are really young, but they don't have any like high end hitting prospects that you're like, oh my gosh, look, they have him almost ready to go. They did just sign Eddie Leonard, who was cut by the Tigers after being there for a couple of years. Before that, he was with the Dodgers. But no, they don't have a whole lot of internal hitting options when things go south for them.
I would think maybe there's even some more moves that could be happening. But yeah, that's not good, especially when he's your big off season acquisition.
Yeah, you don't love to see it, that's for sure. So
No,
that is some news there. Other recent news that's happening again just before we're recording: Gleyber Torres placed on the 10-day IL with an oblique strain, the second player since the beginning of the season that I can think of top of my head with an oblique strain, Josh Lowe being the other one. So that could be not great
Yeah.
for Glaber Torres and the Tigers. They recalled Justin Henry Malloy to take the spot of Torres.
I feel like that's kind of exciting. You're the Tigers expert, so I'll have to get your thoughts. But um, that's something to watch, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, he had 230 plate appearances at the big league level last year with Detroit, 37% strikeout rate in those appearances,
Oof.
walked 10% of the time, hit 8 home runs. So in the minors, he was a 258 hitter with a 28% strikeout rate in AAA. This year, he hit 455 in his 3 games that he played with a home run.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, he came out hot at least, I guess. But
Yeah.
I think you're kind of honestly, I think you're using Henry Malloy for a little bit until you could potentially have How You Lee take over. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Ooh,
He
that's
hasn't played that many games above Double
yeah.
A. Also, Jeff Passan tweet just came across my phone. It is 80 games for Jerks and Profar, but um,
Wow. Okay.
but I think maybe you'd have Henry Malloy there because we would almost hope it was Jace Young, but Jace Young has not been hitting well. Didn't hit well in spring. Has kind of carried that over outside of a opposite field home run that he hit in AAA opening day. But How You Lee is another guy that people are really excited about. He hit 110-mile-an-hour triple to the opposite field for his first AAA hit. He's only hitting 200 right now, has 13 at bats above Double A, but he was a guy that people were pretty excited about. So once he gets a little
Yeah.
more under him, and if he starts to hit at the AAA level, they may, depending on how long Glaber Torres is out, they may opt for How You Lee at some point, I would think.
That's exciting. I have him on my large dynasty league,
Mhm.
and he had a nice season last year.
He did.
I remember watching him, so that would be interesting.
That
Plug
being
him in
said,
at
he's not
second
on the
base.
40. So that's a thing too, right? Jace Young probably gets a look before How You Lee, assuming Jace Young starts to figure it out. Which, again, after a rough spring, he had his big home run, and currently in his first few games at the AAA level this year, he's hitting 333. Like I mentioned with the solo home run, and he has a 30% walk rate to his 15% strikeout rate. So small samples are excellent.
Yeah, that'll do. Yeah,
Gotta love your 3-game samples.
that's this time of season, this time of year, right?
Absolutely.
4 games into the season.
Speaking of small samples, Nate, did you know that the Chicago White Sox have the best pitching staff in the history of baseball?
I was watching that and I thought they heard us. They must have heard Trevor and I last season, always ripping them and talking about the worst season ever and the worst roster. But I mean, good for them. Yeah, they're 2-2,
Their
dominant starting pitching.
their starting pitching has not allowed a run this year. They have a 0 ERA. They have a .83 whip in 23 innings, which is not an insignificant amount of innings for this to occur, by the way. Now, if you
No,
think about it,
uh,
it's small samples with pitchers combined, but from a whole team, I mean, 23 innings straight of starters not giving up runs with 19 strikeouts. It is not bad.
you're gonna win some games if that occurs. And uh, today, and the names aren't even that exciting, but we talked about Sean Burke last week. He had a nice start. I mean, nothing that blows you away with stats, but a scoreless outing, obviously.
Mhm.
And then the veteran today,
Martin Perez
Martin
or
Perez,
Martin Perez?
9 Ks.
I'm thinking Davis Martin too.
Yeah,
He had another
yeah,
good
they're
where he's
both
got his
there.
good
No,
kick
but
change.
the old veteran Perez, I think they were playing the Twins. They shut out the Twins today.
Yeah. So here are the teams that have been shut out in the first by White Sox starting pitching. This is just starting pitching. This isn't just games worth of
Right.
complete shutouts. But the offense is so far shut down by White Sox starting pitching, the Angels and the Twins. And this is the Twins without like Royce Lewis
Yeah,
and a
I
bunch of
mean,
injuries. So take
not
it
the
with a
most
grain of salt,
formidable.
but like they're doing what they should do.
It's good to see. I mean, everyone in baseball would want them to be better. We were hoping. I mean, they have to be better, right? So it's good to see them put it together. At least they'll be maybe reasonably hard to beat this season, at least competitive. So
Mhm.
good for them. We'll
Who
see.
knows? Who knows? Anything can happen. I mean,
It's that time of year.
it is that time of year, and you got to love that because especially it's just a bunch of young pitchers who you don't know what they're going to be. Um, and so I think that's interesting. They're 2-2 to start the year. They currently are tied for second place in the AL Central. They are behind the Guardians, who are 2-1, and they're tied with the Royals, who are also 2-2, ahead of the Tigers, who are 0-3 after playing the Super Team Dodgers for opening series, and the Twins, who are
Yes.
0-4.
Sorry, I yawned. I was so
I
mad
know the
about
Tigers,
the
Dodgers,
Tigers.
yawn, yawn. What boring games. One of them went to the 10th. Tigers
uh,
should have won, and then Mookie Betts hits a walk-off 3-run home run. Who's counting though? Whatever.
Man, yeah, no, the Dodgers are
Whatever.
they're gonna be tough this season.
They
I
are. They are.
it's
Rookie
yeah.
Sasaki didn't even have a good start against them, and they still found a way to win. I think they're just going to go 162-0. I don't think they're going to lose a single game all year. I mean, they're well on the
I,
way.
I do think they'll challenge the all-time win record,
I don't think they're going to challenge it. I think they're just going to run right past it again.
or they'll just crush
162-0.
it.
They're
Yeah,
5-0 right now. I mean, they're already
I
most
mean,
of the way there if you think about it.
it's basically an all-star team, and
It's
I know
basically
they've
a Hall
had
of Fame team.
good point. It's yeah, you're right. It's more than an all-star team. And they've had their struggles, in the playoffs after having some good regular seasons. Not last season, but if we look at the last decade or so, but they're going to be tough.
They are. They are. Obviously, they won't be going 162-0, but I guess maybe. Who knows? Um, Speaking of all-stars, players who are good that you expect to be good and are not doing well, Rafael Devers is a designated hitter only now. And as a designated hitter, he is 0 for 19 with 15 strikeouts to start the year. These
Ooh,
stats may be different by the time you hear this podcast, but as of the moment that Nate and I are talking about it, he is 0 for 19 with 15 strikeouts. He's slashing 173, I think it was, or 183, and slugging 0.
that number one, it's really bad, but number two, it makes you think there is something more going on to this little dust up about playing third base and the Red Sox bringing in Bregman. If you remember, he just kind of gave a short answer saying they asked him about it, and he's like, "Well, I play third base." And I think the Red Sox management trying to play it down, players said the right things, but he's obviously not happy about it, and it's got to be in his head. That's got to
Probably.
be a part of it.
Probably. And if you are in leagues with me, give up on him and trade him to me for cheap. If you are if you're in leagues with me, stop listening right now. Turn the podcast off. If you are not in leagues with me, listen. Yes, it's bad. It's really bad. It is historically bad right now for Rafael Devers. But here's the thing. He played 5 spring training games, which means his timing could be off. I mean, that's just
Yeah,
simple fact of the matter. His timing is probably a little off. I have not watched all the games, but I'm guessing his timing is not there because if his timing were there, he would probably be making more contact.
I think
Also,
it's. I think that's got to be another factor
mhm.
for
And
sure.
also, DHing is a lot different than playing the field. I mean, I've saw on Twitter there were former DHs coming out and saying it's hard to um, just DH. I mean, you feel like you're not in the game as much, right? You just walk up, you hit, you go back to the bench, you wait until you hit again. You're not in the
Yeah,
field, you're not as
you're
engaged.
not in the
And
flow of the game.
if you're not used to that, that can be really different too. I mean, I saw somebody tweet out stats where hitters are better when they're in the field versus when they're a DH in general. So I
Interesting.
think there are some factors at play here beyond just Rafael Devers can't hit anymore, unless you're in my league, in which case, no, he can't hit, and I will take him.
He's done forever. No, I
Done.
mean
Cooked.
perfect buy low opportunity though.
If you have, how many games are we in the season? If you have a manager who in your league who likes to
If you could
freak
trick
out,
them that, yeah,
then
this
yes, buy
quickly,
low. But if not, if you have rational managers in your league, probably not. They're probably going to be like, I'm just going to hang on to him and see what happens here.
he's
Uh,
too good not to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, he's not there's no way he keeps up a pace of striking out 15 of every 19 at bats. There's no way.
No. No.
This would
I
be an Alek Manoah-esque fall off for
yeah.
a player who is more established than Alek Manoah was before his fall off.
Many more seasons under the belt. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway,
That's a good comparison.
you got to talk about it though, because my gosh, is it interesting how poorly he's doing right now. It's not going to last forever. I think he gets his timing back. I think he learns how to DH. I really am reluctant to believe that there's more underneath in terms of the little brush up about who's playing third base. I'm reluctant to believe it. These are professional hitters who, even if he wants to be playing third base, I don't think he would let it affect him, especially when they're like, hey, your only job is going to be to hit.
Oh, you just hit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wouldn't behoove him not to hit, because when it comes time for, well, I guess he signed a huge extension, didn't he? I'm forgetting about that part.
Yeah, I think he did
Yeah,
a
never
couple
mind.
seasons ago or
Oh
last
man, I'm
season.
trying to. But when it comes time for teams to want him, he's gonna want to be able to hit. I think it's just, yeah, he signed an extension in 2023. How quickly we forget. But I think he'll want to hit. He's a professional hitter. This is his job, and I think he'll come back around. Or within the next few weeks, we're going to get something where he comes out and says that he's very unhappy and wishes to be traded. But I
That
just, I
yeah,
just
I
don't
know
see that happening.
that would be the other scenario, I think. I think you're right there. It would be he's done, he's over it. But yeah, he's good. He'll figure it
Yeah.
out.
So there's our news. That's what's brewing in MLB to start the year. My gosh, what an eventful first week of the of
Oof.
the regular season. What we're going to do is take a quick time out right now on Coffee Talk. We come back, we're going to start talking about some Coffee Talk guys, some guys who may be lesser known, more available on waiver wires that you might want to look into, because now is the time to make some good moves. So that is going to be coming up here shortly. Right now, though, we're going to take a quick time out. We appreciate you listening. This is episode 42 of Coffee Talk, part of the Pitcherless Podcast Network. And welcome back to Coffee Talk on the Pitcherless Podcast Network. My name is Trevor Hooth. Of course, I'm joined by Nate Kosher, and there are some players to pay attention to, some lesser known names that are worth talking about. And I think, Nate, the place to start, the talk of the town, at least in my Twitter circles at this moment, is
Mhm.
Otto Lopez with the Marlins. He's having a phenomenal start to his year. He was a guy who I don't think was expected to even get regular starting time, but all of a sudden Connor Norby goes down. Otto Lopez gets some more at bats, and in his first 15 at bats, he's hitting 333 with a home run and a stolen base. And the man's just kind of hitting the ball. He over the weekend went 4 for 8. He was 0 for 4 in the game yesterday, based on when we're recording this, the Sunday game, but he had a really good weekend and people are starting to pick up on it, thinking, hey, maybe he can help me out.
Yeah, and if you look at what I think this is out of the rest of them we're going to talk about, or even some of them, I think this is one that's sustainable because he's only 26 years old. If you look at what he did last year, he's not going to hit for a lot of power, but in 117 games, he hit 6 home runs, 39 ribbies, 20 steals, and hit 270. So that was basically his first full season in the major leagues. He had a few at bats with the Blue Jays, but if you look at him coming out this hot, I think he's going to be someone who can provide some average and some speed. Beyond that, I don't think you're going to get a ton from him, but I think it's potentially real, when we're looking at these breakouts and can they sustain it? Will they fail and burn out? It's looking good. He's hitting the ball well. He has some speed. He didn't do terribly last year. So I think it's if you need some middle infield help, can't hurt to take a look at him.
I agree. And imagine if he gets a torpedo bat all of a sudden.
Yeah,
So
the sky's the
um,
limit.
sky's the limit, man. No, yeah, I 23 doubles last year. He hit, get some total base. But again, you're looking at a speed guy, stole 20 bases. He should. Who's gonna compete with him for playing time in the Marlins lineup at this point? Unfortunately, that's kind
Right.
of where they're at right now after trading everybody off. Um, so it seems like he's going to have some regular playing time. Looks like guy who could help you out a little bit. I mean, Roster Resource has him in the 5 hole, and I agree with you. I think he's someone who can um, definitely provide some value depending on what you need. If you're looking for speed. Now, if you're looking for speed just across the board anywhere, I would not go Otto Lopez. I would go Victor Scott.
Yes, probably the best option if you are looking for just speed. One of the best
Mhm.
options in baseball. Victor Scott. So we know him well. You and I know him because last season we were surprised he made the big league roster. His speed intrigued us because we knew he was going to steal bases.
And then he hit
Unfortunately,
179.
yeah, the part he didn't do was actually hit,
Yeah.
but
But
he actually hit a home run. He's already hitting a home run,
mhm,
and he has 3 steals. So the skills are there. Like he's flashy
mhm.
because of the speed and the upside. So I don't know if it'll amount to anything we saw struggles last year, but the pedigree is there and his ceiling is higher than Otto Lopez. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's probably true. He scares me though. Still, he
I
scares
know.
me. He
I
was
agree.
everyone was kind of in on him because in 2023 he hit 303 between low A and double A with 7 home runs and 44 steals. I'm sorry, 9 home runs total, 94 steals total. That was 44 steals just in double A. Now, last year, even in triple A where he spent 362 plate appearances, 81 across 81 games, he hit 6 home runs, stole 30 bases, and hit 210. That
Yeah.
being said, 15% strikeout rate, 10% walk rate. Now, that it's just kind of weird, I guess. I think he's going to be a guy who can get you steals, but until he consistently learns to make contact or better contact, I should say, against good pitching like that, above the double A level, triple A MLB, he's going to be a guy who's tough to trust. So far this year, he's hitting 250, has a 25% strikeout rate in his 12 plate appearances, but
Hmm.
he's hit a home run and stolen 3 bases. Like, he's gonna steal. The steals are gonna be there. Even when he hit 179, he stole 5 bases and still hit 2 home runs. So he's looking like a guy who may not hit for a ton of average, but can get you steals and can get you
I
maybe a
mean,
few home runs here and there.
even if I would say even if he could bat 230 or 240, like even that low, but is giving you the steals and the speed that he has, he'd probably be worth starting. Until we know he can hit even that, he's probably a bench utility fourth outfielder that you're just holding on to just see what he can be.
Here's what I do like about him. His um, competition for center field is Michael Ciani. I mean, realistically, you're going to have Jordan Walker in a corner. You're going to have Lars Nootbaar in a corner. And the only player who you trust to play center, probably, unless they want to call up Matt Koperniak. Even then, I don't know if he's a center fielder, if he's a corner guy. He might be a center fielder. That's me saying I literally don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
Um,
either.
but right now, it looks like your main competition is Michael Ciani, who is a phenomenal defender. Phenomenal defender. And it came right down to the wire for some reason during spring training between the two, which means the Cardinals really like Michael Ciani because he can what he can provide with his glove. His bat is what I've heard described by evaluators as a wet noodle. I mean, he just doesn't hit the ball. And so if you believe Victor Scott's going to hit the ball or at least hit the ball better than Michael Ciani, who I think batted around 100 if not below that in spring training, then he's
He,
going to have run. He's
he's
going to
pretty
have
safe.
plenty of runway. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I do
his
like that
playing
about Victor
his
Scott.
playing time is safe. You know, you were talking about the defense, maybe the lack of hitting. It reminds me of someone I saw over the weekend a couple times, Pete Crow Armstrong. The Cubs were playing the Diamondbacks, and he made a couple of throws that were unreal. They got the Cubs nabbed someone out at third base. I don't remember who, but he just had a cannon laser, however you want to describe it. Beautiful throw to third, and they tracked it like 93 miles an hour.
Yeah.
out of his hand, and I was watching thinking that's what doesn't really matter in fantasy baseball. Like his
Mhm.
skill set, he also has speed, but like he's so good at defense, but that doesn't translate over to what we talk about. But
Yeah, but Pete Crow
excellent
Armstrong,
plays, and I I was like, dang, yeah, that's why they talk about him.
I still believe in Pete Crow Armstrong's bat. I mean, even hitting 237 last year, he hit 10 home runs, 27 stolen bases. Now he's hitting .091 at the moment, which isn't great, but I don't know. I still just believe in his
Yeah,
bat more than I believe in Victor Scott's bat,
I
I should
agree.
say.
I agree with you too. I think
Yeah.
Victor Scott's ceiling could be like a lesser version of Pete Crow Armstrong, because
All
I
right.
think he can hit more.
Here's your pop quiz for the day, Nate.
Okay.
What baseball movie did Pete Crow Armstrong's mom appear in?
Oh, you know what? I know this. Um,
It's like my favorite Pete Crow Armstrong fact to tell people.
it's got to be one of two. It's either okay. So I don't know it. It's either the Rookie of the Year or what's that one? Little Big League.
hmm Little
It's
Big
got to
League.
be one of those
She's the mom.
'90s
She is
movies.
the mom in Little
Okay,
Big League. Yep.
there
Yep.
we
Good
go.
call. Good call. All right. Back to baseball. Back to fantasy baseball, I should say. How about a pair of first basemen? Tyler Soderstrom, Kyle Manzardo, both of which off to a fantastic start. Are you buying both? One? Do you buy one over the other? Of these two, who do you think you're going after? Because of realistically, they're filling probably the same spot.
Yeah, that's a good question and a tough call. Man, I don't know who I would go. I don't know. I can't. I'm having a hard time saying who I'd rather take there. I feel like Soderstrom's had longer chance and opportunity in the big leagues. Manzardo has shown flashes, but struck out a lot. You know, okay. I'm going to say Manzardo because Soderstrom doesn't, and I'll say why. I don't believe he has catcher uh, eligibility anymore. If he still had catcher and first base, then I would say Soderstrom. But I think he's just first base now, and he's looking good too. But I don't know. Um, I like what Manzardo could potentially do. I remember watching him in the playoffs last season, and he against the Yankees played pretty well. The strikeouts are going to be an issue, but I'm going to say him.
All right. All right. All right. I'm going to say Tyler Soderstrom.
He's done more. He has done more, and the opportunities there, I think. But I don't know. I just like Manzardo. But yeah,
That's fair.
I see what you're saying.
That's fair. I mean, look, I totally fair. They're both off to great starts. Manzardo has 2 home runs in his first 11 at bats, hitting 455. Soderstrom has 3 home runs in his first 15 at bats, hitting 467. And Soderstrom got just absolutely undressed by a pitcher over the weekend. I can't remember who it was, but he looked lost against a pitcher still. I just, and this is probably completely biased on my end, and I will admit that, but I've seen Tyler Soderstrom live a lot.
I remember you saying that. Yeah, and he was like one of the best
It just stands
people you
out. I
saw
mean,
or something.
just
Yeah.
stands out. And I have full belief in him to become a good MLB hitter. The thing with Soderstrom that is worth mentioning is at some point the A's, and it's probably going to be some point soon because things are happening in AAA, but at some point the A's are going to have to figure out what you do with Tyler Soderstrom and Nick Kurtz
Yeah.
because their first round pick got off to an amazing start. I'm pretty sure he almost hit for the cycle in game 2 of the AAA season. Just a
Oh wow.
phenomenal start for him in AAA right now. And eventually, one of them's going to play first base. One of them's probably going to have to DH regularly, and so it may not be as hard to figure out as maybe what's Roman Anthony going to do. But Nick Kurtz 455 with a home run in his first 11 at bats on the season in AAA. Like he's coming, and it's going to happen fast.
Yeah, he might
So
force their hand.
right. So the question is, what do the Athletics do at that point? And I think that's your biggest knock on Soderstrom right now. But I think you definitely find a spot for both of them. Now, what you do, I don't know, because Brent Rooker's your DH right now, so you're going to have to figure out how to maneuver that one. Neither one's going to be a third baseman for you. You're probably going to move. I don't know. I don't
I don't
know.
know. I don't know either. And they just signed Rooker to to an extension after
Right.
his big year.
So you believe Rooker stays, but then you have Langeliers catching, so you're not going to have Soderstrom go back to catching. Soderstrom's your first baseman right now. Maybe I think Andujar, Seth Brown kind of move out of the starting rotation, but you know,
Yeah.
even then, it's hard to figure out what you're gonna do. But I think maybe that's the spot as left field that gets pushed out. Maybe Rooker plays outfield instead of DH, and then you have the other one DH, or maybe you try Kurtz or Soderstrom in the outfield. I wouldn't, but they're going to have to find a spot for Kurtz, and I think that's where you're taking Manzardo, because Manzardo, as you mentioned, probably has more run. There's not a whole lot of people who are going to come after his spot. Now, that being said, he's been DHing, so he may not even have first base eligibility.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that he does.
I think he's just util, so it's kind of
That's tough.
both of them have their warts, but they're both hitting
Yes.
so well right now.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. I mean, they're two people to watch, especially if you need some power help. The potential is there if they can keep strikeouts down. Yeah. So I
Right.
would not add them right now necessarily, but you're watching them. And especially over this next week, if they keep doing stuff by the time we're recording next week, or maybe the week after that, by then I would say you can make the decision on dropping someone from your roster for them.
Yeah. So I did see that you put Justin Slayton down here.
I did.
He did pitch 0 total innings, give up 4 earned runs, and 1 walk the day of recording this podcast.
Okay, that I did not know.
But such is the life of relievers. I just traded somebody $10 in my fab in my keeper league for Nate Pearson, who has a 13 ERA right now. But you just never know. They're fickle. So, what did you want to say about Justin Slayton?
Yeah. So I realized I spelled his name wrong. Now I corrected it. But you knew who I was talking
They
about.
didn't need to know that. Our listeners don't see our.
You're right. We're not going to post our notes for this episode. What I was going to say is he nabbed a save. I'm going to say maybe it was the first game of the season. It was one of the Red Sox first games.
The 27th against the Rangers.
Oh yeah, Rangers. So it was their very first game. He was the one that went and got the save. He got the call over. Oh man, Chapman is now in Boston. And Slayton last year, I feel like early had shown a few flashes, and we thought maybe he'd work his way in. I don't know actually how many saves he had last year. I'm going to look that up right now. He only had 2 saves last year, but he had a respectable season as a reliever setup, and then he nabbed the save right away. So that is what interested me over Chapman. I don't know if he'll be the man, but he's obviously going to get some save opportunities. Relievers are always such a crapshoot as it is, so he's probably available in your league.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of weird save decisions that happened that are, I don't know, maybe notable, probably not notable, but potentially notable. The Padres, their closer is Robert Suarez, yes?
Mm-hmm.
They also have Jason Adam and Jeremiah Estrada, both of whom are back-end relief arms that you're like, if it's not going to be Suarez, you'd think one of those two, right?
Yeah.
There are talented 2 San Diego Padre relievers who have recorded at least 1 save this year. They have 3 total saves. Suarez has 2 of them. Another pitcher has 1 of them, and it is not Jason Adam, and it is not Jeremiah Estrada. I'm not asking. I just think that's interesting.
Oh, I thought this was another.
I mean, if you want to guess, feel free to guess. But
no,
it's interesting to me that that's not
Yeah,
those two didn't get the opportunity. Now, obviously, this is early in
I
the season. It
agree.
could just be a usage thing.
Who
Those
was
guys
it?
got used recently. Adrian Morejón.
Oh, I remember him.
Yeah. He
Oh, wow.
yeah, I mean, he hasn't
Interesting.
given up a hit, couple of walks, couple of strikeouts in his appearances this year, but he recorded a save in one of the games. Again, that could just be usage between Estrada and Adam had just gotten used the day before or whatever. But just I guess maybe he may get some save chances throughout the year.
Wasn't he a starter at one point, or
Yeah, he was a
early on?
pretty high end prospect at one point.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just arm issues, shoulder issues mostly, if I recall. Just kind of
So he made an appearance. That's interesting. Yeah, trying to figure out closers, you never know. I also saw the Terry Francona gave the save chance to some guy who pitched for him in Cleveland like 4 years ago, before 5 obvious choices that the Reds had. I can't
love that.
remember who it was.
It's a
Um,
MLB level reliever, and it's just some guy. Look
yeah,
at that, some guy.
he was familiar with him. I didn't know who it was.
Tim
Let's
Herron,
see. No, it wasn't Tim Herron.
Paul Sewald, Emmanuel
Oh,
Clase.
Ian Gabot.
Oh, yeah, Jabot, I believe. Maybe I
I
don't know.
don't even know how to say that, but he knew him
Oh, I'm
from
looking at the Guardians. I'm not looking at the Reds. My
the
gosh.
Reds. The Reds, yeah. Now Francona's back. He's managing the Reds. He
Mm-hmm.
knew this guy because he had played for him
Mm-hmm.
in Cleveland. That's the scenario. But the Reds, we're talking about Ash. Uh, what's his name? Graham
Graham
Ashcroft,
Ashcraft,
potentially getting some saves.
Tony
They
Santillan, Emilio
Yes,
Pagan.
Pagan. I think Pagan did get a save over the weekend. But yeah, it was just like one of those. What in the world? Where did that come from?
Speaking of closers and how you never know what's going to happen, in the post Jason Foley era, do you know who got the first attempt to save a game?
Oh, I saw this. It was Bo Brisky.
Oh, Brisky. Did not go well for him. Some of it was bad luck, and then he got rattled, but did not go well for him, which means maybe Brisky might be first in line for save chances. Tyler Holton probably if Brisky doesn't work out, but um, we're starting to figure out who in the post Jason Foley era is going to be getting saves in Detroit, and I
Brisky,
still don't fully understand the move. Anyway, yeah,
yeah, that was weird. That I was surprised too when that Foley was sent down, but Brisky was another guy. I think it was in the playoffs last year watching, and I was thinking, oh,
mhm,
this guy's pretty impressive.
yeah.
But he hasn't had consistency, or what? What's his story?
He was developed as a starter, and um, injuries happened, and he was a guy whose stuff continually improved as he moved through the farm system. I believe that there's a writing that I did where I looked into a game of his and I said that he looked like a back end starter, but his stuff got better since I wrote that. And so I think he has good stuff. I think he probably could be a really good reliever, but it just things didn't work out in his first attempt against the Hall of Fame level Dodgers. So I think I
Yeah,
don't think that's his last save opportunity. I'll just put it that way.
right.
What I do want to
Yeah,
say, we'll talk some more pitching in a little bit, but right now we are going to take a quick time out here. Starting pitching on the way, and then I made a trade for Defend Yourself. All that coming up here on Coffee Talk on the Pitcherless Podcast Network. And welcome back to Coffee Talk on the Pitcherless Podcast Network. My name is Trevor Hooth, of course, joined by Nate Kosher. We were just talking closers. Well, let's talk some starters. There have been a lot of really intriguing performances to open up the year. We talked about how the White
there
Sox
have
have been
been.
doing. So that's certainly something. But there were also some other good performances, Nate. We got a list of them here. Is there anybody specifically that you want to make sure that you talk about right now?
Yes, there is, and I would say it's been the best starting pitching performance of the season. This person has shown flashes before, but he came out and was spectacular. That's Mackenzie Gore.
Oh,
Um,
love it.
six scoreless innings, 1 hit, no walks, 13 strikeouts. He was absolutely nasty. Another person who was a high up prospect at one time. has had some injuries, was traded, inconsistencies. Um, but if he can
Was
put
a
it
can't
together,
miss prospect at a time,
right,
by the way.
exactly. If he can put it together, if this is now him putting it together, he's probably already rostered in your league, but
Hmm.
he could still be an ace. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
He could get there, and he looked unhittable. And like I said, I think it's the best start of the season so far.
The best is yet to come for him. Absolutely, I agree with you. I mean, last year, 3.9 ERA, 9.79 K per nine. You know, there's just more to come, I think. And it's his career arc has been storybook level. He was a early high school pick, I believe. Can't miss pitching prospect. Like he's going to be the dude. All of a sudden, boom, velo drops, and everybody's like, "What up with Mackenzie Gore? What is going on there?" Right? And then slowly works his way back. He was part of the Juan Soto trade, and all of a
Yep.
sudden now is starting to reclaim some of his former glory, I think, and we're starting to see some more of that upside now that he's with Washington. He's only 26 years old. So I agree. I'm
That's the
glad
thing. Yeah.
that he's shown the improvements, and hopefully this can be a real breakout year for him. Something I'm certainly betting on. I traded big time for him, and I have been regretting it all off season. But then he strikes out 13, and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah. No,
Did I cook?
that was a good trade. I I have a
Jury's
funny
still out on it, but I'm like, my
one
gosh.
day it looked good. I have a quick funny story about him when I was in a Yahoo league. Whenever this is 2 or 3 years ago, maybe even longer, whenever he was set to debut,
Mhm.
and they would have like little chats per player, like, and people would say, is he injured? Is he going to come up? Or, what's happening with him? And someone started this thread where this is really stupid, but it was funny at the time. They would put his name wrong, like call him like McGruben or, you
Mhm.
know, McDonald or something. And then it was the number of connections of the person who told you he was going to get called up. So it's like my neighbor's at the gas station and he saw McGruben's mom and he's getting a call tomorrow. It's like this weird internet meme. You know how stuff happens on the internet, it doesn't even make sense.
Stuff
It
just happens on the internet.
it
Absolutely. That is
yeah,
true.
it didn't make any sense, but it was a funny thread. And then he finally got called up, and then no one did it anymore because he finally made the call. But the point is, I'm glad he's having success. I think he will move up Nick's list
I think he moved up like
this
22
season.
spots if I saw already. Just
Oh
from his
yeah,
first start. I believe those stats came out. I saw it in the baseball general channel on the PL Discord. Make sure to join PL Pro if you have not already. Lots of great conversation. I'm usually pretty active if you want to talk prospects, and it's just very active all around. But
yeah.
anyway,
Gore is probably the top guy we're going to talk about here, just because of the pedigree.
yeah, and I'm gonna talk about one pitcher that you listed here in a second because I'm excited. But here are the top risers uh, from I believe the release literally this morning when we are talking about it.
Oh,
The
good.
biggest
I should look
changes
at this.
The biggest changes, this is a screenshot in our general channel. Chris Bubich and Tyler Megill go up 22 spots. So Bubich is 64th now. Megill is 67th. Mackenzie Gore goes up 21 spots. He ends at 44. AJ Smith Shaver goes to 85. He's up 15. Bassett to 82. He's up 12 spots. Eovaldi up 8. He's up to 49. Jeffrey Springs up 8. He's up to 50. Taj Bradley and Jose Soriano both go up 7. Bradley's now at 60. Soriano's at 74. So just a few of the big risers from the early game. Now, the player I want to talk about though is Jack Leiter.
Yes. Yeah.
There was I talked on the First Pitch podcast about how he the day before his start got hit in the head by a fly ball and was in and out quickly. But like, is he going to make the start? And boy, did he make the start! Now he's another guy who came. He was supposed to be absolute stuff demon coming out of Vanderbilt. His fastball is supposed to be nearly unhittable, and he gets to pro ball, and his fastball is remarkably hittable. And his stuff seemed to take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I'm writing a scouting report going, I think this dude's a middle reliever. Like, I just don't see it for him. All of a sudden, these past couple of years, he started to figure some things out. He started to tweak stuff. I don't know what the change is, but he has his stuff back. And he threw in a spring training game 4 consecutive pitches, 100 miles an hour or harder. The hardest of them was 101.
Dang.
So,
Yeah, I knew he had a nice spring.
and I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but when he came out of Vanderbilt, it was a flat approach angle with his fastball. So it was a low release and a flat approach that made it really tough to hit at the top of the zone. And if he's got that back and he's throwing upper 90s, dude, like, it's going to be good. I think he's only struck out 4 over 5 innings, but the way he looks now versus what I thought when I wrote a scouting report a couple years ago, and it's a lot different, and that's really exciting. I think Jack Leiter, folks, may just be back.
And he's probably available in your league, wouldn't you say? A 10 or 12 teamer? Or do you think someone took a flyer on him?
I think probably after his first start, somebody might be jumping after him, but he's available. He's a guy I definitely would go after because he's solidified in that Rangers rotation at this point.
I agree.
Well, not solidified, but he has a spot. I mean, Roster Resource has him as SP2 at the moment. If he starts to be really bad, he's going to get sent down and lose his rotation spot. But like, he's firmly planted right now in one. And if he pitches as well as he did in his first game, he's going to hold on to it.
I'm just looking up quick in Yahoo percent owned. Speaking of Yahoo, 46% rostered.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
what about AJ Smith?
He's been added more than he's been dropped. Let's check that out.
Because Smith Shaver, I know we just talked about him moving up on Nick's list. He's also a huge benefactor of the fact that he's just literally on the team. We've talked a lot about
27% owned.
That's the dude I'm picking up right now. I mean, pick up Jack Leiter first, but if he's not available in your league, pick up AJ Smith Shaver. I didn't look like he was going to have a chance at the Braves rotation. All of a sudden, now he's in it, and he has really good stuff. He has really good upside, and he had a really good first game. So I would be jumping at AJ Smith Shaver if he's available.
Yeah, no doubt. I would add him right now. Like I said, Gore is probably not available, but beyond that, add Leiter and Smith Shaver, I would say, because you can't ever have enough starting pitching, Trevor.
You can't. And let's look at the downside of the opening weekend pitching wise, and then we'll get into defend yourself. Roki Sasaki has not looked very good to this point. Against the Tigers, he only made it 1.2 innings. His fastball was not around the, I mean, it was, I guess, technically around the zone. It was wild. Like, he's kind of struggling early on, which isn't abnormal, but are you concerned?
I don't think I'm concerned yet. Just on all the scouting reports I heard and all the hype and all the stuff we read. I mean, the guy, he was what, 23 years old, playing in a brand new country, way far away from home, new team.
Big market, high expectations.
Yeah, big market, knew everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of pressure on him. I saw he said he didn't feel great with his mechanics. And he just wasn't in sync. I'm not worried about him yet.
Yeah.
There's still a ton of time, and he's only a rookie. He's also gonna figure it out. It's like the Devers situation. He's too talented not to figure it out.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I'm there, but felt like it's just something we need to talk about.
No, it's new. It's definitely newsworthy. And someone, what was it? I saw, you know how retired players, they always like to talk about these days players.
Mm-hmm.
And someone, I don't remember who it was. I don't know. He got called soft online by some
right, because he looked upset that he wasn't pitching well. How
yeah.
dare a player care about what they're doing?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so sorry. I would never. That's good to me. I like that. Right. If you care about what you're doing, you're going to work to make it better. If you don't care, that would be bad in my eyes.
You're just sitting smiling or like laughing or something. Yeah, I agree. So he'll figure it out.
All right. It is time. Defend yourself. Well, I'm defending myself.
Yes.
And actually, I'll defend myself later. I want your take on this, but I'm not going to tell you what side I am on in this trade.
Ooh, this is exciting.
You can't do this. You should never do this in a vacuum. If you are looking at trades, it is league dependent. It is team dependent. You should not do it in a vacuum. So let's talk about this trade in a vacuum.
Okay.
One side is Dylan Cruz and Max Clark.
Yep.
The other side is Jaron Duran and Chase Burns.
And that's all I can know.
That's all you know for now.
Okay. Oh man, this is interesting. So, here's a question: when did this trade transfer through? When does the transaction occur? Like, when did this occur? This trade where it was finalized and
It was finalized on Sunday.
okay, that was good. Good to know. Good to know.
It was offered exactly like this a previous Sunday, and then I got busy and I wanted to tweak a couple things if I could. I asked about a couple other players, nothing worked out, and it ended up being this exact trades a week later.
Okay, and you were proposed the trade.
Yes.
The other person proposed it to you. Okay.
Yes.
I guess I got a little more information out of you. Okay. I'm gonna
Why do you
guess
think I'm on based on that
I'm gonna
information?
guess which side you're on.
Okay.
I'm going to guess, and actually, I'm going to do a reverse psychology. I think you traded away Max Clark and Dylan Cruz to get Chase Burns and Jaron Duran.
I did.
Oh, yes! Nailed it. And here's my thinking. Cruz was struggling.
I don't care about that.
Hasn't looked great early, but we know he's a stud.
But we talk about Devers. He's like 0 for 11. Cruz is 0 for 11 with 8 strikeouts. We talk about Devers.
Yeah.
Cruz is in the same boat, honestly.
Right. I know that you like Chase Burns. I feel like you like Chase Burns. I've heard you say that before, and so lucky guess. But Duran's a stud. So now that I've guessed, can you explain your thought process here?
Yes. Duran is a top 25 player in baseball, and my team is making a move to win this year, if not next year. I can't get any more direct than that. I mean, my team is a built contender. My hitting is low. This is the league where I just traded for Paul Skeens. So my pitching is Tarek Skubal, Paul Skeens. I had George Kirby, but I also have Hunter Green. Like, my pitching is right there. My hitting is not quite there as much. That being said, I still have like Bobby Witt, but and I have hitter Shohei Ohtani, but the rest of it is a little bit more suspect. Now, the way it looks now, I have Austin Wells at catcher. My first baseman is Isaac Paredes, Colt Keith at second. Bobby Witt's my shortstop, Jazz Chisholm, Stephen Kwan, Jaron Duran, and Shohei Ohtani. And my bench is a little more suspect. I do have Cam Smith, who's probably going to slide in at third base because Josh Young is hurt.
Yep.
But other than that, I mean, it's just I'm trying to win. Somebody offered me Jaron Duran. I'm not going to turn down Jaron Duran.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Knowing you're in win now mode helps me even more. I think you won that trade today. Like, as we're talking now, like you said, Duran had turned into a fantasy stud post hype, finally put it together. You got the best player as of right now in the deal. Obviously, Cruz and Clark is a play for potential down the road, but you also picked up Chase Burns, which doesn't hurt. So,
and I have Walker Jenkins still.
Oh, well, that's beautiful.
I mean,
I think, Trevor, you've defended yourself well, because it didn't take much defending on this one.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. If you get any trade, you get a top 25 player in baseball, and you're not giving up something. I mean, Cruz probably enters the year top 100, but if you're getting a top 25 guy and you're giving up prospects and a guy who is probably outside the top 40, I don't think you need to defend yourself. I think you won the trade.
Got it.
It's just
it's one of those trades where
upside, right? You want the best players, and so when this is a rebuilding mindset, but I always want the best player. I will overpay to get the best player. In this case, I don't think I really had to, and I still got the best player.
I think so too. And sometimes these trades happen, where you're not thinking about making a trade. Mm-hmm. It just comes out of the blue, and you're like, wait a minute, like looking at it, like.
Well, I mean, I had asked about Duran before because he was selling everything off, and I was like, good players are fine with me, and he wanted Walker Jenkins. I was like, I'd rather just keep Walker Jenkins, and I just waited, and all of a sudden, I told him I'd rather keep Cruz too, but then he's like, he wanted that package of Cruz Clark or Cruz Jenkins or one of the three. He wanted two of the
Yeah,
three for
2 of
just
those 3.
Jaron Duran. I was like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just sit pat and let these guys play it out. I wanted Kurtz, honestly. He didn't want to give up Kurtz. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll settle for the stuff demon that is currently in the Red Sox or in the Reds organization. That'll be fine, I guess.
Yeah, that's a nice trade.
So yeah, worked out. And honestly, I was like, do I really just want to rock the boat? I made so many trades to move this team around, and I've decimated my farm system, and I'm trying to regrow it. I went and got Luke Keyshaw because I like Luke Keyshaw, but
You got to worry about
overall,
that team chemistry too. Maybe the
yeah.
guys in the clubhouse starting to get to know each other.
Well, the deciding factor. The deciding factor was I needed something to talk about on Defend Yourself. We need podcast content. No,
Thank
I
you
mean,
for
it
doing
was a
that,
no-brainer
Trevor.
trade for me either way. I would have accepted it either way. But yeah, so not bad. I think it turned out well for me. I'm happy with it. And I have Jaron Duran now.
Yeah, I like it all the way around. One of the
I mean, look,
better, easier ones we've had in this segment.
Jazz Chisholm, Jaron Duran, Stephen Kwan's a pretty fun outfield. Stephen Kwan's a guy I just have. Like, he's just a solid stabilizer for things that you don't
He
have in the
is.
moment.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Kind of an unheralded guy that you just kind of want.
I agree. Yeah, not the most flashy, but one of those boring guys that
When I
gets you wins.
first started playing fantasy baseball, that was Michael Young for me. I just went and got him every single year because he was just that like stable guy for a while.
He was good. Yeah, that's
Why not?
old. Yeah, Rangers, right? Michael Young.
Rangers, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So with that, Defend Yourself is over. I survived. Whew. I wasn't worried about it, but I did survive. We appreciate you guys listening. Of course, remember, Coffee Talk is around every single week now during the season. Make sure to check out our YouTube as well, because all of this gets streamed live. Make sure to check out First Pitch Podcast now that I'm on that as well. I want to hype that up. And of course, always appreciate talking to you, Nate. We will have another episode next week, episode 43, coming up next week. But for right now, appreciate you listening. This has been Coffee Talk, part of the Pitcherless Podcast Network.